One more thing. One more thing. One more thing.
Hello and welcome to another episode of One More Thing with these deep and meaningful video interviews. Today I am joined by two absolute titans, two stalwarts of the bass scene, Youngsta and Nomine. They've revolved around each other for a very, very long time, as we're about to find out. But most recently, they have made a beautiful album entitled Ascension, which is coming out very, very soon, or will be out now, actually, by the time this is out, on Century. So we are going to chat all things bass, all things Ascension, and see how you guys are. Nomine, Youngsta, how are you both doing?
We're good. Thanks for having us, mate. Hope you're cool.
Oh, no,
Happy
my pleasure.
And healthy, brother.
Excellent, excellent. You two have been busy. Like, before we even get to the album or anything, there was a track with Rico Dan last year. There was a remix on Dark Mode this year. You started getting in the studio together quite a lot, haven't you?
Yeah, it was a few years back, wasn't it? You came up to my old house, Dan, and we got in and started a few things, and yeah,
That's right. It was I'd say it was probably 2018 or something like that, or maybe 19.
Yeah,
that's when we first started cooking up a few things, but never really doing anything with them, just sitting on them. And then it was a few sessions after that that we took it into like the concept of creating the album.
Right. Okay. So like the remix of Chips and stuff like that, then we're just kind of testing, really, seeing if you could collaborate together in that type of way.
No, to be honest, the album was already kind of, that was more of a let's like you said earlier, Dave, that was a way of like letting people know that some things were cooking in a way. We'd already been writing the album, hadn't we, Dan? And a couple of people that approached you for remixes, and you said, "Yo, let's do these remixes to let people know that we're doing stuff." And it's kind of like a prerequisite almost to the album, wasn't it?
That's right. We the long story short is we completed the album, but we was waiting on vinyl because there was some delays with the vinyl processing. We therefore had to wait because we didn't want to release it separately. It was important to us that we did it together. So we decided to just wait and be patient, which was really the best thing we could have ever have done. And it turned out for the best. And as Andrew said, meanwhile, I was like busy with a few contacts, getting us some remix work, and keeping busy that way, just so that we're still making movements, but then just holding off for the big finale.
Yeah, I like that.
We did the Chips thing, we did the Johnny Cash thing, didn't we?
Oh yeah,
the War thing. We did another thing for Breezy, like a halftime DMB thing. So there was like 3 remixes before the album come, which was perfect for us. It was a good lead up, as you say.
That's cool. I think I'm beginning to hear more and more positive stories of the vinyl delay because it's creating this longevity, like this almost accidental longevity, and putting a bit more time into the music. So even if you did really want to rush something out and really get it out, you can't. So you've got to sit on it and you've got to think about things a bit more creatively, and you've got to be patient, and patience is good in all circumstances, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. It was it worked out for the best, as I say, and now it seems the perfect timing for everything, the way it's come together. So I'm really happy with the way it's gone. It's been so natural, and me and Andrew have always said it's never been like we're trying to get to the reward or the goal. It was a case of that it was so natural and without force creating the album, because there's one thing that I would like to add, which is we did not spend a lot of time in the studio on this album because it was written during a time of certain situations that made it very difficult for us to be in the studio together. So we just dealt with it the best we could, and the outcome was great. We was doing it online, over the phone, like old school times. There was a lot of going backwards and forwards. There was a lot of patience needed. There's nothing like being in the studio. We were saying that the other day, weren't we? There's nothing like that. You can never beat that. But it just turned out beautiful. The way it came together, there was no stress. There was no times when Andrew wasn't getting what I was saying or he wasn't getting what I was. vice versa. It was perfect.
Go on, that's wicked. That's wicked. And like, we are on repeat. Like, everything that we're enjoying at the moment is like basically the harvest of lockdowns. But it was such a rubbish situation, and it's something that we all talk about. I'm getting bored of asking people about lockdowns and stuff, but it does seem like we're like living in this golden time of great music because people got busy, people got creative, people, you know, people who were lucky enough to be able to, not everybody could for various reasons, but people who could, like you guys have with this album, exploited that situation and made the best of it, really, isn't it?
Exactly.
Absolutely. We really did.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And also, it kind of marks 10 years, really, since your earliest releases as Nomine, doesn't it, Andrew?
Literally, I'd say this year, I forget the exact timing, but yes, it was 10 years since I started Nomine, which is a weird kind of cycle in itself, because obviously Dan was there from the beginning, A&R in the first, and then all the tempo releases onto the album after that. And it's just, again, like Dan said, everything just clicked and happened naturally, like from the initiation of the album to how it flowed to the timings, and everything was just the energy. I remember we said at one point it just felt right. Our energy had come together from, you know, the progression and the kind of things we were doing in our personal lives to the kind of music we wanted to make, and it all just felt really natural and not forced. And it kind of celebrates that decade as well of what was the beginning of Nomine and that friendship and that relationship as well. So yeah.
Brilliant. That's wicked. And Dan, I mean, you played a pivotal role in the beginning of Nomine, didn't you? I mean, let's make sure that people are quite clear. Like, you know, well, I mean, Andrew, like you'd already had years and years as Rage, then as Outrage. You were beginning to settle into a new chapter in your life as a teacher and weren't really pursuing the music thing as much as you were. You know, you were settling into a new role. But Dan, you heard something in Andrew's productions and brought him out of himself, really, and encouraged Nomine to be a thing in a way.
Yeah, this is true. The history is we have got an interesting history, because when Nomine was created, when Andrew created Nomine, it was him wanting to do something different. And the thing is, what he was doing was exactly the thing that I loved, like super minimal, really like technical and precise precision, but with almost like a lot of Eastern and ethnic sort of inspirations. So that straight away, he caught my ear, and the rest is history. But it was very natural again, because Blind Man was the first thing I think we put out, wasn't it? Or was it not?
No, it wasn't actually. I even get confused with my the record, but it was Searching was the first thing with Nomine sound on the flip.
Yeah,
I actually remember which order that came, but Blind Man was the one that obviously, you know, the thing is as well, what you have to remember is when you guys signed Nomine, the whole Minimal Mondays thing was kind of at the peak of everything.
Yeah.
Well, so like you were pretty much creating anthems by that repeat every week, playing certain tunes. And, you know, obviously it was I was fortunate enough for my music to slip into that system. And certainly Blind Man was a part of that equation where, you know, you would just ram it down people's throats every Monday.
Yeah, it was crazy, because it weren't even fortunate. It was just perfectly timed. But that was just one man's opinion. The point is, it was our DJs were back in the day. We all know that they had a bit more power over sort of a gatekeeper, they would call it, really, where we sort of, the producer DJ hadn't been born, or it was born, but not really established. It wasn't massive like it is now. So
I guess we were seeing traces of it, weren't we, with like what Scream and Banger and Casper and Rusko were doing at the time. But I think what you were doing with Minimal Mondays and what was happening on Temper at that very, very specific time was really, really necessary, because it was the yin which contrasted the mainstream yang at the time. Like UKF was blowing up, the mainstream side of dubstep was kicking off. You had the whole kind of EDM influence in America, and you were flying the flag for the real dub. you know, if it wasn't, you needed both sides of that for it all to kind of exist. You needed you to create that contrast. And, you know, like Nomine was part of that, especially Blind Man and Nomine sound and stuff like that, but also like Consequence, also Truth and Jay Kenzo. You were bringing through and championing some really important minimal dub-wise bass music really at the time, and we needed that to kind of balance what else was going on in dubstep at the time, I think.
This is true, because that was like a really important time because of the popularity of it, for sure. And when Andrew did come along with Nomine, it was just perfect. And I was A&Ring for Temper at that point, so Temper was if not, you know, the first ever dubstep record label. It's definitely one of them. But you could argue and say it's the first. But the point is, it had so much power, the label as well. So between my radio show on the Monday, the Minimal Mondays, and the record label, it was just, it was a combo. It was a serious combination. So it was only right that I was going to sign Nomine to Temper, because the music was doing so well on the radio. The thing is, I never just played things because I thought they would go down great. Like, you know when something's going to go down great or not, but you're playing things because you love them. And that's why I was always doing what I was doing on the show, and not necessarily going with other strains of dubstep. Because you said like the real OG stuff, or what, you know, whatever the phrase you used was. But the point is, it's quite a subjective thing to say what is or what isn't. And the way I see it is, I just always played what I like, bro. And that's always been what the majority of people would call the OG sound, or whatever it might be. But that's not bring to the, like, we need to bring this to people's attention. That Consequence, for example, like you said, he was from DMB. Icicle was from DMB. So there was a lot of people that I was bringing through, or helping to bring through, however you want to put it, that was not the OG sound. They was bringing a whole new dynamic, and that's what Nomine did. Nomine captured the OG sound, the original sound, but with a new twist, and that was what was important for me. So not just I'm going to play true to what I love, but that there was an evolution of it. There was a progression, whether it be slow and solid, rather than just a big jump into like all this noisy jump up stuff that was around at that time. Because at that time, when that show was big, Skrillex and whoever else was doing their thing. And I like Skrillex. I just don't like playing the music. So it's two different things really there. But yeah, Nomine come along with the right sound for me, and it became actually quite a signature sound of my sets. So yeah, I'm glad it all worked out for the best, mate.
Brilliant. And an album came out of that pretty quickly as well. A lot quicker than probably you would have imagined then, Andrew.
Well, that's right. Because of, like Nomine said, we had the Nomine sound thing and Searching before that. We sort of eased them in, because you got to remember, just because what you see come out when it did, that don't mean that I didn't have a massive batch of tunes like sitting on them. So he could have sent me Blind Man quite way before the album, and we're like, this is an album track, we're holding this back, you know. And then from the album, it made the album sampler. It had to be a 12. So that I might add is 100% a dubstep anthem, without a doubt. Blind Man is a tune that's timeless within its own right, but also within our pond, it's a massive anthem, without a doubt. So bravo, brother.
Brilliant. Go on, man. Did you expect to be writing an album so quickly as the Nomine kind of project started to flourish?
Well, not at all, really. After the first signing of Searching and Nomine sound, I was asked if I wanted to sign an album deal pretty much straight away. I guess that's the confidence that Temper had. Like, do you want to sign an album deal? And I was like, after one release. So you know,
I know. When I know. That's what I'm saying. It's like natural to me. It was so A&Ring was so like, I was never allowed to do anything admin wise with the label. That was a no absolute no, because I'd always mess it up. But the boss of the label, Sarah, was always like, just stick to your strong point. You know, you've got an amazing ear. That's keep you in this department. And I'm so glad that I did concentrate on that, because it's like it becomes so easy just to pick a track that I knew, or hear an artist even more so just from a few tracks that you know is going to be like game changing, like Scream or Bengo. When we first heard their stuff, straight away me and Sarah sat down and picked the first album from a massive batch of Scream tunes. Same with Nomine. He sent us a fair few tunes before we sort of got it down to, I selected my favourites, and that's that. We Nomine also selected the ones that he felt wanted to be on there, and to be honest, they all matched. There was nothing that we didn't clash at all. It was all symbiotic and worked great, in great harmony.
Brilliant. What are your memories of that, Andrew?
Yeah, it just all happened so quickly. There was 5 single/EPs, because I think our first one was 2 tracks, and then we started to do 3 tracks. Then I started to work in the whole 130 thing, and that was another thing that like I started making 130, and Temper were the third track for a bit was a 130 thing, and then Dan, myself, and Kenzo were playing 130 in our sets as well. Like that was a little bit of a movement as well. We were talking about this the other day. But it all happened quite quickly. Like the 5 releases in the album was a bit of a blur. And like Dan said, I probably made 40, 50 tracks.
Definitely.
Consideration. You know,
you definitely made that amount or near that amount. That's what people don't realize. And this is a message to all you producers out there that are new to the game. Not all your music's going to come out. You need to get over that. And I'm saying in the most nicest possible way that I feel I can, but bluntly, you got to accept that every tune you make helps you progress and makes you a better producer, but they're not all going to come out, and they're not meant to all come out. It would be wrong. So I'm sorry, I just butted in there.
No, I think that's a really valid point, and I reckon Andrew probably makes that all of the time in your classes and stuff. And it's stuff that I say to, you know, kind of aspiring artists is don't release everything, don't rush stuff out. It comes back to that whole patience thing, doesn't it?
And you know what though, I must add, to the other end of the spectrum or the scale of it, people that are scared to show their creation, that's a problem as well. Don't procrastinate. Don't do that. You need to show your music to people such as myself or Andrew that have got a good ear, that's not going to be non-biased and give you the best advice we can. You know, you have to put it out there to get somewhere. And art creation's for sharing anyway. Let's be honest. You're not meant to, like, Da Vinci wasn't meant to paint what he painted and not share it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's who you share it with and how you share it and things like that, really, isn't it? I think.
Well, I think you just give it out. You just give it out with love, and then let the rest do what it does. Like, love is in charge. So you create it, release it to the public, and then just move on. Like what I was saying to Nomine the other day, I'm so guilty of looking at comments, but I know not to. Like, I know what I'm doing. I should practice what I preach, but sometimes I'll look at the comments, and I was saying to Nomine yesterday, or Andrew, I was saying to Andrew, it can do me, it can trigger my ego so badly. And you know where I'm going with that. So don't check the comments.
completely. And you could have 100 comments saying something is great and something's amazing, and you get that one comment saying it's shit, and it's ruined your day.
Oh, it's perspective. No one sees the same thing as you. Like, we could all be looking at the same thing, and we all see something different. That's pretty much a proven fact. I'm sure of it. But if it's not, I stand corrected. But I choose to believe that is true, and that means that art is beautiful in that whole concept, because beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So that is true. That's a big statement. And just because one person says that track is bad, like you said, it ruins your whole day. So really and truly, art is to be looked at from different perspectives. That's the point of it. I think just release it to the public and carry on creating art. That's what you want to do it.
Yeah, go on. That's amazing. And that's very, very true. And you guys have created kind of fast forward now from that kind of formative stage where, you know, your stars aligned and stuff. I'm guessing that you've always been in touch and always been bubbling and always been talking about doing creative things and sharing ideas. And then it got to the point where Ascension had to happen.
Yeah, I think like Dan said, we started we just started jamming a few years back. We got in, started to cut the tracks. One of them further materialized to become 528. The other one, like Dan said, didn't see the light of day. And there's quite a few things that won't never come out from the album, like outtakes and stuff. But yeah, we just started. We didn't really have an agenda as such to write an album. We just started creating, and then we knew when the time had come that there's an album here. We just made music, and then we're like, hang on, there's something here. There's a little kind of thread, and it kind of feels right to turn it into an album, and that's what we did.
Go
I
on.
think it didn't. It actually as well. It happened exactly like that, and then we made Catchman, and then from there, that was it. When it Andrew, we was like, there's a sound going on here, definitely over the last like 3 or 4 tracks we've done.
Yeah,
And we was just zoned in on that, and we didn't have to sort of try and imitate that. That's just what kept coming out of us every time we created a track, like ultra super minimalism, because I'm involved. You know, nothing too scatty or skippy, but with the Nomine, you know, the Nomine sound, which is tried and tested. And may I add as well, it's an absolute privilege or even an honor to work with Andrew, because it's one thing to A&R him from a label, you know, point of view, and get him on signed to the record label, but to be able to be in the studio with him and get creative is like, wow. It's like I said to him, it's like working with like Dr. Dre or you know, someone like that, Timberland or whatever. I don't, and that's, I'm not, you know, I don't need to go on about how good he is. He knows how good he is, and the point is, when we realized we had a batch that had a sound, and it sounded like not too much like Nomine or not too much like Youngsta, because that did happen with a couple of tracks, and we realized, that's, you know, we were aware of this, and they didn't make the cut. So there was about 3 or 4 when we were sort of finding our feet, that wasn't quite right, sounded a bit too much like Andrew. I was like, that ain't gonna happen, that can't run. And one of them was like, this just sounds like I've told you everything I want, and you not. So yeah, it was a balancing thing. And once we did that, because like I say, we weren't in the studio, so it was challenging to make music like that. But to be honest, I'm like a little sort of, I can be like a hermit and just collect thoughts and ideas, and then I'll just unleash them to the producer that I'm working with. And I don't think I ever struggle from writer's block ever, because they're backed up. The ideas are so backed up that I'm always ready with a sample from this or from that, or whether it's a vocal sample from an interview or a documentary, or literally a little jazz string from a jazz song that I like. And that has been the foundation of the track we've wrote. You know, everything's a remix in a way. So we're just remixing it in our style, in our way, I think.
It's a good representation of the sound. And first of all, thanks a lot, Dan, mate. Of course, you know, the honor is 2 ways, mate. To work alongside yourself, like, is just you know, that's amazing as well. So big up, brother.
All love.
But yeah, the sound, that's one thing for sure. Even for me, listening, and the people that I've spoke to that have heard the album, they're like, yeah, you can hear U2 in it.
Yeah,
it's like it has got the, you know, because although my stuff was quite stripped back and minimal as Nomine, it might be sometimes a bit more pacier with the tribalism and stuff like that. Whereas Dan's thing is, you know, he's very known for his stripped back kind of minimal stuff. And yeah, the combination of what I did and that is it's a nice marriage, and it's very apparent that there's Dan and myself's kind of forces that have come together there for sure.
Yeah, I love that. And it must have been a really nice feeling when you realized that you kind of cultivated or carved this sound, because it does feel like that. The whole album, you know, it's a dub album, essentially, really, isn't it? You know, like it does feel, you know, it does take you on that kind of journey. And it must be a really nice feeling when you've got that sound and you think, right, okay, this is coming together and it's not contrived in any way. It sounds really natural. That must be an awesome feeling, really, when you know that you're on the right track. That must be a high, you know, one of the high points of the creative process as you're going along.
For sure. Yesterday, we sat down yesterday, didn't we? And we didn't even think about it. We worked on a track, and I was like, this sounds like us. And there was no like we just it was an old idea, to be fair, that we actually changed up quite a bit. Like you wouldn't even recognize it from what it was, but the way we just carved it in a few hours yesterday was like, this just sounds like us. And it weren't even like we were just vibing, and that was in person, so that was nice that in person we could come together, you know.
Was that the first time you'd actually got into the studio together then, in person, then, even after all of this?
Since since when Dan come to mind a few years back and we started a few bits, but yeah, literally as the first time we got in person, and just felt just as natural. And like Dan said, to be fair to Dan, he's a bombardment of ideas and I mean, the amount of voice notes and little references and stuff. Dan knows exactly what he wants, and like we speak the same language, and that played a big part in it kind of running so smoothly. Like Dan to a T can describe what he wants from something, and yeah, it really did work out against all odds. Really, you wouldn't think it would, but it did.
That's the most important thing, I think, of collaborating, really. You know, when you're working with somebody else, I get it a lot with designers or video editors, when, you know, you have to be really precise. If you're communicating an idea and you have that vision in your head, then you need to be able to describe that and be on exactly the same wavelength in order to get it. And sometimes you can have a collaboration with your best friend and not be able to get that communication across, not be able to articulate that idea quite clearly. Is when you're on the same wavelength and you're communicating, like, that is key in a collaboration like this, especially with all the other circumstances involved in making the album and the times that we were going through.
We were so granular. Like Dan would like, just move the hi-hat a quarter note back. It was that granular on like voice notes and calls and stuff, that it was literally like being in the room and having that conversation, but not. It was that granular. It was amazing.
Go on, cool. I mean, you're both serial collaborators. You both seem to really enjoy that process with another person. Some artists don't, you know, they prefer to be in their own creative world, but the pair of you have proven track records time after time of really successful collaborations. So I mean, what is it for you, Dan? You know, kind of what's your secret to a collaboration?
Well, to be absolutely clear, the reason that I probably resonate towards that way of working is because that is the way I work. As in, I never engineer any of the tracks that I make or that I'm involved in. So whether it's a solo track or a collaboration, I'm not touching the buttons. Like, I get involved in certain little things, but I'm talking about operating the arrangement, you know, the computer, so to speak. So I'm more someone that needs to go through someone else to get out my creativity that is, like I say, piled up. If anything, I need more ways to get it out quicker, but there's only so many hours in a day that you can sit with someone. So yeah, people said, why don't you just do it yourself? It just does not work. I can't explain it any other way. The only person that I know of that me and Andrew said is a good reference is someone like Goldie. He's the same. It's like he's got loads of ideas. He's a very creative person, but he finds it easier to write it down and draw things out, which is what I do, and get examples. Because, you know, why not? If you can get examples of the exact things you want and then readjust them or do it in your own way, I think that's, you know, part of it.
Yeah, I've spoken to Goldie about this, and he said about he's like gone away from, you know, like not learning the technicality so it can let the creativity, when you learn the technicalities, it can quash the creativity in a way. That's you know, harness the creative ideas and then work with somebody who's got the technical skills, so then you can both create something amazing together.
You've just put that, so you articulated that perfectly. I mean, or he did, if that's what he said. That's
in summary, yeah.
That's beautifully put, because that's so accurate, and it's true. It really is true, because that's what it does for certain people. It blocks them. So my creativity was getting blocked every time I was sitting in the studio, being the engineer as well, having to think about the technical side and moving stuff. I mean, it could be to do with a few things in you know, in my past, but you know, maybe I smoke too much sometimes. Who knows? But you know, even days where I've gone into the studio clean-headed and really worked at it, it just squashes my creativity. As Goldie said, it's the best way to get it through get it out is through someone else or through a certain system, then do it. And more to the point, that's what's important about working with certain producers, because like Goldie, he was selective in what engineers he used for his solo work. And I think me and Andrew are just as selective on who we work with as well, because even though we've got a few different collabs under our belt, they are very selective when I look at it. There's been certain people that I've worked with that you don't know about because it didn't work. Do you get what I mean? So it's one of them ones where, honestly, when it's like a 1 in a million when you find that connection that me and Andrew have got, and certain other producers I've had that connection with. So yeah, I'm blessed. Really, we're blessed to find that connection, and yeah, that's the way I work. That is the way I do it. So when I'm in the studio and it's not just me driving the car or the spaceship, and it's all my rules. When it's both of you creating, both being creative, and you know, one person isn't just engineering for you, and it's a solo track. When it is a collaboration, I really do love that. I think that there's something very special about bringing two creative minds together that are in sync or in harmony. It's stuff that you would not do. It's like two DJs back to back. Because I'm from the DJ world, I'll put it like that. It's like when I'm back to back with Hatcher or N-Type, you're going to get something different to what you get with just me or just N-Type. So it's pretty obvious, really, but the outcome's not always good. So when the back-to-back is good and it works, it's beautiful. Just like the collaboration in the studio, it can be so perfect almost, if that exists.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that analogy with the back-to-back. And it is, you're creating something that wouldn't otherwise exist. You know, the two of you are bringing it together. How about your secrets to a good collaboration? You know, I'm specifically thinking about your collaborations with digital, really here, Andrew, like, which there have been many. And, you know, you clearly, you know, you two work together really well. You guys both work together really well. So what's your secret to a collaboration, to add on what Daniel said?
Biggest secret to collabing is drop the ego.
Yeah.
You know, it's the biggest secret. When I first started collabing, because I was similar to Dan back in the day when I worked with AMIT. AMIT was on the buttons because back then you had to have a 20 grand studio. I didn't have that. I had loads of ideas. I had a notepad. I'd make bass sounds on a Pentium 1 PC on SoundForge or take samples. I'd turn up to AMITs with a notepad and some floppy disks with one bass on each floppy disk. And I'd actually write a track down on paper, what I want in the intro, how long I want it in seconds, and we'd sit and write tunes. But the way I see a collab is, if you've chosen or accepted to work with someone, there's going to be times throughout that creative process where you're not necessarily going to agree on an idea or a suggestion from that other person. But what I learned over time is, don't shut it down immediately. Let it be a thing. And what you find is it matures, and then what you get is a beautiful marriage of what you want from the sound and what someone else brings to the table. Because if you don't drop the ego, you might as well just make a solo track. If you want it all your way, make a solo track. It's as simple as that. You know, because the collaboration, as Dan said, is those two ideas coming together. And if I have had studio sessions where I'm like shutting down the other person's idea all the time, or they're shutting down my ideas, and I'm like, this is not even a collab anymore. It's an ego battle. And actually, it's either going to be your track or my track if we carry on like this. So, you know, just top tip, just drop the ego and let it become one.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And that leads me on really nicely to the next question is, were there any points, you know, all sound so amazing, so organic, so beautiful, two friends creating something really special here, but was there any point where you fell out? Was there any point where, you know, what were the low moments of the creative process in that way? Like, is this, nothing is ever perfect all of the time?
There wasn't. There was no, I think because we're both practicing dropping the ego, kind of, and I mean, that applies, what Andrew is saying applies to everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Like, if you drop the ego, we'll all get on. Like, everyone's going to get on. And I'm not saying I'm no master. I certainly am not. But it applies to life in general. That, you know, we can all bring our ideas together if we drop the ego. You know, we can all get on. just like we can get on in the studio. And he's so right in saying that sometimes you want to listen to the chitter chatter in your head, and you're shutting the other guy's idea down before it's even began to blossom or grow. It's still a seed. It's still sitting in the dirt. So for me, that is a beautiful way of putting it. I couldn't have put that better. You've got to drop the ego, and it is true. Sometimes you'll learn the hard way if you don't drop the ego. But no, we didn't fall out at all. There was times when we may have had to, like any relationship that's healthy, compromise, and then realize actually through that compromise, it's beautiful and it worked. And because I trusted my partner in this situation, you know, it worked out great for both of us, all because I was happy to see that idea grow. So no, there was no it was so natural. Honestly, I'm not even trying to blag it when I say how it was non-forceful. And even with the challenges of not being able to be in the studio, like we keep saying, it was still, it was meant to be. Like the Ascension album was just so correct. It was almost like the universe was doing it for us.
Oh wow, go on.
Way.
I love that.
I don't recall a hiccup. I don't recall, you know, like maybe a miscommunication, minor miscommunications of like not quite understanding something and doing something totally different. But other than that, like literally there was no, you know. And then to go back to what Dan said about the whole ego thing, we've both been, you know, we've had conversations over the year, which I think is why we come together. Like, you know, we both love a bit of Alan Watts, hence the track called Alan on the album. You know, a bit of Sadhguru, a bit of Krishnamurti, you know, these we're into that sort of vibe, and you know, we've been doing our own thing with that stuff anyway, and I guess that was a part of the working relationship as well, that we've been kind of working on that stuff for ourselves in life and whatever else, you know.
Do you know what? I was going to bring up Alan, really. I think that's one of my favorite tracks on the album. And I'm only really kind of, it's like Alan Watts has been a part of my life for so long through samples. And I've not, you know, and there's so many ways that he's been part of my life, and I've heard his voice, and then you dig it out and it's always like, who's that? And to the point where the minute I saw the name track Alan, it's like, right, there's going to be an Alan Watts sample on this. But he appeals, you know, he appeals to both of you, especially like what I'm learning about, you know, in this conversation as well. But I've had less deeper meaningfuls with you, Dan, but Andrew, we've spoken at length about so many things. You both seem like very philosophical fellows, and he was way ahead of his time, really. He joined the right dots, basically, and was generations ahead of his time, I think.
Don,
it's true.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I want to get your favorite tracks, your personal favorites. When you think about Ascension, what's the track that first stands to mind, really? Alan is my favorite. Journey is another one for me as well. I love the dub techno elements in that. But how about for you two? You know, when you think about all of the tracks on the album, is there one that stands out that's particularly special?
It's difficult for me. Every track, and this was intentional as well. I mean, every track is different. You know, it's like from Catch Me to 528 with the little kind of 100 BPM dubby things, and it's all very different in its own right. I mean, we both, I think I can speak for Dan, not as a favourite, but we both know and knew that Catch Me was quite special. There was something that we were just like, that was kind of when we were like, album, and there was just something about that. But you know, it's just very hard to pick a favourite because they all represent something totally different. Have you got a favourite, Dan?
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because you are correct in saying about Catch Me is a very close one to my heart, and I know it is yours. And it actually didn't have a vocal on it when it started, because all this the whole concept of the album was not let's get in the studio because we couldn't with recording artists, or that's just make tunes deliberately for vocalists or MCs or rappers. It wasn't like that. We were just making naturally what we wanted to make, not even thinking about dance floor, not thinking about nothing, just making music. That's why there's quite a lot of the music as samples in from Alan or etc. So there was a few tracks like Catch Me, which was one of the first tracks, like I said earlier, that made us realize this is the sound. This is definitely a specific sound of us. And then I was like, I don't want to add a sample, and I'm pretty sure Andrew was the same. I was like, I hear like a singer on it. I hear, and that's what happened with this. You know, out of the 50 tracks we made, or 40 maybe, we got it down to 20 or something, and then we got it down a bit more, and they were the best of the best. And out of them tracks that was in that batch of the best of the best, there was clearly ones that we could both hear. It was like, this needs a vocalist, this needs a rapper, this, you know, a singer rather, sorry. So that's kind of what happened. And again, without forcing it, just sending it off to people that we thought it might work with, and it did. It worked great. Everyone that we explained a very short brief of what it's about, Ascension, obviously change, going to a higher place, bettering yourself, all that sort of stuff. But it just resonated with everyone. We sent Catch Me to Breezy, and honestly, what she sent back, it was no back and forth, was there, Andrew? It was just it was just spot on, and I was nearly in tears. Like, it was emotional for me. How and again, I must stress, this is what happens when you bring someone in, because we shared that creation with someone else's creation, and we all got creative. Look what happened. That track is now even more advanced, or even it's leveled up. It's 100 times better for me. And we both love the track as instrumental and play the track as instrumental. But the dynamic and the thing that she brought to it, what was created with her touch, with her sprinkle of magic, was just unthinkable. Honestly, I couldn't have wrote them lyrics in never.
You touched on that now. I mean, I think there's a lot of similarities between the two of you. You know, from an industry point of view, really, is that neither of you are just artists or just DJs. The pair of you wear multiple hats at any point in the days. You've got fingers in multiple pies in that way. And I think that's probably another way that you two get along and have worked and collaborated so well. You've run labels, you've promoted nights, you've done all of these things. And Dan's disappeared. No, he's back again. You've run labels.
I'm not professional like you lot with your tripods and that. I'm on the handheld version, and my battery's running out, but it's all good. I've got time.
Oh, cool, man. I mean, we are wrapping up anyway, so hopefully we can get the last of your battery. But yeah, I think that's another reason why this particular collaboration, this fusion of your two energies and skills has worked particularly well, because you both see things from different perspectives and have played lots of different roles in the industry and still do. You know, you build communities and things like that. You know, you promote nights, run labels, all of these type of things. And that gives you a much more solid grounding on what you want to achieve and how you can work together and how you communicate as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important, just a message to anyone up and coming now. Unfortunately, as hard as this might seem, it's very difficult now to just come through on merit as the artist. You know, it's really difficult, really difficult. Fortunately, there's a lot at our disposal, which means we can self-release, we can do artwork for cheap, and things like Canva, and, you know, a lot of it you can do yourself. But I do think, obviously, both Dan and I have just taken it upon ourselves to learn different things as we go along. Just by chance it happened, and it's probably contributed towards our longevity in the scene as well, because, you know, if you are self-sufficient and you can put stuff on a label and you can A&R and you can put nights on or whatever that might be, I think that certainly helps during the tough times. And Dan and I discussed this as well, like, you know, the whole thing's a roller coaster and a zigzag. 1 minute you're up here, then you're here, then you're here, then you're here, then you're here. So you have to kind of have your finger in different pies to keep it moving, I think.
Yeah, it's true. It's good to have your fingers in some pies and just focus on them pies, mate. That's all we've been doing, and it works well.
So, I mean, Ascension will be out now. Hopefully, all going well, this video will be out on the same day as the album. What does the future hold for the pair of you? I'm imagining that you're going to carry on working together. You got such a great connection and a great pact and a creative dialogue between you.
Yeah, we sat down yesterday and Dan was like, yeah, we were going through some potential press pictures and stuff, and like Dan was like, yeah, they'll be good for the future, because I'm pretty sure we'll continue to work together. And we sat there and wrote a track. So, you know, that's how it is. We'll just keep making music. We need music for our sets. We like new music, so we'll keep making music. I mean,
yeah, we ain't going nowhere, and the relationship is strong, and and yeah, it's honestly, for me, I would like to just say and add this last thing, is that there will definitely be an Ascension part 2.
There you go.
Hey, there we go, man. There's the exclusive. That's
Yeah,
an
bro.
awesome way to end this. That's brilliant. So thank you very much, Dan. Thank you very much, Andrew. And thank you very much to everybody who has watched this. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please drop a comment or like or subscribe or do any of that groovy stuff. And we got one more point. One more thing.
And should we big up the amazing photographer and artist for Ascension? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go on,
Go on, Dan. Do you want to do that honor?
Do you know what? Andrew saved the day again. I have clearly smoked a bit today, just a little bit. That's my excuse. But honestly, you're in our hearts always. Ben and Sean, who done amazing. Like Ben is the photographer. I'll add some links. His links are on my Instagram posts and stuff.
We can add all those links in the comment section as well.
Yes,
in the description
that would be
of this
great.
too.
That would be professional of you. Thank you. Yeah, big up Ben, big up Sean, big up Bo for doing a great job with the mastering. As always, he's our go-to. He understands what we want. He understands the sound, and he always gives us a great master. So big up Bo. 1087. 1087 in it.
Yeah, and Unearthed as well. Big up Unearthed for
you know what? Much love to them guys, because everyone within that team at Unearthed are all doing it for love. I'm telling you, they truly are. They're a very rare breed, and I just want to say big love to them lot, because we couldn't really do it how we do it without you.
So we won a Grammy there, Dave. Sorry, mate. We're doing our speech off, Grammy speech and all that.
And big up to you two. Big up to you two for creating such an awesome album, and for being up for chatting to me and believing in One More Thing as well, and spending your time chatting to me about this. So yeah, thank you to you guys, and thank you to everybody who's watched. Please support One More Thing, because it's very new, and I want to get the word out there and support amazing music like this. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you everybody for watching. Big up.
Big up you, Dave. Big up you. Big up.
Big up.
Awesome. There we go.
One more thing. One more thing. One more thing.